Hello everyone, this is Ahmed Najjar back again with another Geometry Nodes video. In this video we'll talk about the edge to curve node and shortest path node. We will create a stunning effect just like the one that you saw in the teaser. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Let's get started. So as you can see in this Blender file that I just opened, or the one that has been opened earlier, I have this head of a character, and if we will go now to the edit mode, we will see the geometry behind it. I'm not sure if that's a clean geometry as it should be, but at least we have certain number of edges that we can depend on to create the effect, or to let the Blender find the shortest path between one point and the rest of the points in the shape. So for that we need first of all to select one of these vertices here to make it the starting point of our branching let's say curves that will start moving or start acting as the growing roots. So I will select one of these points here down, and you can select one or multiple, by the way, and then you go to the vertex groups, you add the group, and then you assign the point or multiple points according to your needs. Then you assign it to the group. By that we have a vertex group called group, and remember that name, or we can call it the root, or we can call it anything else. Then we go to the object mode back again, and we start our geometry nodes game. So let's create a new geometry node, and in this time we will not delete the input, but what we will do is we will bring the edge to curve geometry node edge. Let me search edge, and we have here edge paths to curve. So we will put it here, and suddenly nothing happens because this node expects a start vertex and the next vertex index. Okay, so let me bring another node, which will be actually the Shift A, the edge shortest path, shortest edge paths, and that will bring the end vertex. I will take the next vertex index to the next vertex index, and we will define the end. So the start should be the one that we started with. The end should be the end vertex, or any end vertex that we will assign. So for now, let me make it as the end vertex, the one that we just created as a node group, not node group, as a vertex group. So let me attach this to the group input so that I can assign that node that vertex group through the parameters of the modifier. So vertex end, now you can specify a number, which is a float, as you can see here, or an integer. Then if you would like to select one of the attributes that you have defined within your system but outside this geometry nodes, you can select this. You can click on this icon here, and from that you can select the point. It's a point of a group, which is called the group, the one that we just created. If you would like to select a UV map or a face or an edge or whatever, then you can do that as well. But what we care about is the group, and suddenly this is what happens. See, so this is the effect that we have in the beginning, and we have a lot of curves, but it gives us the shape of the face that we started with. So what's next now? We need to animate it. So to animate such thing, we would like to have Shift A, trim curve node, and the trim curve node, once you plug it, you can start tweaking the starting point, and you can see that we are trimming from the starting point till the end point, which is the point that we defined as our group, or as our in our vertex groups. So everything, all these curves that you saw in the beginning, or that we see right now on the screen, are actually branching from a main curve that came up from the point that we have selected at the beginning, and it ends up with the whole shape, as you can see now. So if I start moving from the end, or trimming from the end, then the opposite should happen. It will start trimming from bottom, as we can see, till the top, and the effect of the trim is different because the root has been changed now, and everybody or all the other curves are short curves. So almost at the end here you can see the, let's say, the major effects happening, where these curves start to vanish and suddenly nothing happens. So what we will play with is, we will play with the start, okay, but we can also change the end to give partial effect like this, so we don't go to the whole shape, or you can fix it to a specific vertices. So everything here that you can play with in order to achieve that thing. For example, let's take the start. From where do we need to start? Shift A, start. How we will assign the start? I will bring an input index, for example, okay, and we will do some random. Shift A, random number, random value, and random, the value will be integer between 0, let's say, and 10, and multiply the index by that. So let's bring a math node, utilities math node, and multiply it, index with the random value, and then we take the value as a start vertex here. So let's see the effect when we start removing this. So the end is always the same, but something happened for the curves when we put the start value, or the start vertices. So if I change the seed, if you look into the shape, it gives us certain variations that we can notice, but we don't know exactly what's happening, because it changes the start but in minor values. So let's try to make it like 100 and see how that will affect the shape. So certain effects are there, but it's not that big deal effects, to be honest. I don't know how that plays. Maybe we can select the position and compare the position. X, X, X. Let me bring the position, Shift A, input, position, and from the position, Shift A, let's bring utilities or vector separate, X, Y, Z, let's separate it, and then what we will take is again math, utilities, math, and I have another idea also in my mind, to be honest. So let's take the Y value and multiply this, multiply or compare this, compare, which is like greater than or less than. As long as the Y is less than a value, then make this as my start vertices. Any vertex with a position of Y less than or greater than. Okay, so like this, we're controlling from the Y axis. So as you can see what's happening from the right, see, this is a nice effect as well. So this is something that you can also play with, as if it is a mask that we have created for that face, starting from this point, but it's doing this. So if I take the X as well instead of the Y, and let's remove this, see what's happening as if you are trying to complete the face from the right to left, just like this. In the 0, let's go back to the camera. See, this is another effect as well that you can do, and it's a cool effect, to be honest with you. I didn't realize it, just now I tried it. So from the Z, you will try to manipulate the Z like this, and it will start from top to bottom, from bottom to the top like this, and you build your curve. Okay, and that's also controllable through the trim curve that we saw earlier. So you have now both controls. So if we take like the X with the start of let's say like this, okay, and even if you increase the start, so you can start playing like this, and then you can move it toward this, and then you can increase the start. So that's something very nice, and you can create amazing effects using this kind of nodes. So we have another way to play with the things, but I don't want to make it let's say complicated, because the next part will burn our CPU or GPU, because we will convert all these small curves into actual meshes, which will increase the number of vertices, the number of edges, the number of faces, lots based on the actually the quality that you would like to have at the end. But after we did this, let's just convert the splines into Bezier or NURBS. So because we need it to be smooth. So what I will do is, this is a curve that outputs here. So I can't display a curve on the render, so I need to convert it to mesh. But before we convert it to mesh, I need to smooth out some curves that are not like totally jagged like this. Let me bring the curve spline type and change it from poly to NURBS. Now suddenly you will see something is happening. Okay, so the curves are a little bit smoother now. Let me bring also Shift A, and what we can do is also bring curve to mesh, and the profile curve should be another curve of primitive curve. Let's take circle. Be careful in this step here not to make the resolution of the circle like high as it is right now. So we will reduce it to the minimum, to be honest with you. I'll reduce it to 3 because this is the least number that you can select to create a curve of a type circle. You need at least 3 points. Okay, and the radius for sure it will be 0.01 maybe, or 0.001. Let's check that. Once you plug this into the profile curve, you see what we have on the screen right now. So as if it is a fabric or something like that. Okay, now what we can do here is that we can leave the radius here as it is, but we can control the radius of the curve, the original curve. Shift A and go to the curve, set curve radius, where is it? Come on, set curve radius. And from the curve radius we will take the spline parameters, curve. We have spline parameter, and we will rely on the factor. Okay, and if you didn't see this before, if you didn't see this on my channel before, then you might need to go back to the other video of curves for geometry node that I created, and I explained all these points that I'm doing right now. So make sure to go there. I will leave the icon here on the top to click on it, as well as at the end of the video and in the description. So I will take the factor, okay, and I will bring a float curve just to control the radius from using this curve to reach the curve that we would like to have in terms of thickness. And this goes to the value, yes, and this value goes to the radius here. And as you can see, we have something a little bit much better. Let me just increase this here so that the tips of the curves are not very small or very tight. So we can increase it, and we can actually decrease this, and that will give us this shape. Now if you add a material to this shape, a material that makes it glow or that gives it the effect of sci-fi, then you will get something interesting. If you don't want to give it a sci-fi material, then still it's interesting, and you can apply another material that is actually with BSDF and PBR material, whatever material that you would like to have. So end of the point here. So Shift A, set material, and I will select one of the materials that I have. I'm not sure if it is still there or not. What did I call it? Light? No, nothing. So we will create a new material very quickly for this character here. Let me go to the character here and add material, new material. What we will do is just increase the emission or change the emission light to green as the one in the video, and then increase the emission strength a little bit. If we go now to the render mode or the material node mode, we will see the effect that we have. We did not assign it. What did I call it? Material? Yeah, it's material, I think. Here it is. Now that's something interesting. So we can now animate it. We can play with these values here, X to Y or Y to X, whatever you would like to have, and then we can play with the start and end, and that will give us the effect that we are looking for. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another video, and have a nice day. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.